in the land of Colombia with spotty Wi-Fi. You should have you followed that CryptoPunk spotty Wi-Fi?
No.
So he so CryptoPunks as they took off, people were like, I'm gonna make this my avatar. And so if you look up spotty Wi-Fi, that's his handle, that's his avatar. And he is a real life DJ that has DJ'd for Bored Apes, has done a lot of crypto places, and he uses this crypto punk that's got like kind of like freckles right here. He's a punk of color, and it's just he goes by Spotty Wi-Fi. So anytime I see someone's Wi-Fi go out, I think, "Hey, Spotty Wi-Fi, what's up?" He's got a music video and everything. Like it's for real.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. No, I didn't know that. I do love that when CryptoPunks, I believe, is this way. I know Bored Apes is this way. Hello, Allison. How you doing? The fact that they give you the entire rights to be able to use the avatars however you want is super cool.
Well,
Is
this
super
is in
cool.
flux right now. So this week,
Okay.
Bored Apes went to court over one of the people they're suing. There've been a lot of George. George says Spotty is awesome. Yeah, man, Spotty Wi-Fi. You know what it is. He's a cool guy, man. He really is cool, and he's good for the space. He's a creative for the space. But so the Bored Apes is in court right now about this, and it came out that they don't even have the right to give the rights to Bored Apes. They have never
How does that
filed.
work?
They've never filed any trademarks. They've never and there's like the poor man's trademark, right? Like you do a cross state line sale, but with crypto, in this crypto world, we're always trying to obfuscate who purchased what from whom and why. And when we think that we're asserting ourselves because the blockchain, it's immutable. It's immutable, but it's also hard, surprisingly, hard to track from a rights perspective. Who actually has the rights to these Bored Apes? Was it the generator that generated the apes? Was it the OG artist who came up with the look and feel? Is it the company? And this is where the fine line is. The parent company for Bored Apes, that's what's in question. Does the parent company for Bored Apes have the right to enforce copyright-led rulings and ownership? Well, no. And so there's case law happening around this right now. Doodles, on the other hand, I just discovered, is explicit. Doodles 1, you have full commercial rights up to $100,000 worth of merch and use. So like I could go find Doodles number 1,000, and I love that doodle, and I could license them for my company, which is something that we have right now. We're going to, with the website company and Spark. We're looking at rebranding and reimaging our entire world. And so we considered licensing a doodle because we love the look and feel for our clients. George says that case is going to set the tone for IP rights around NFTs. Also happening is a fashion case. I didn't know this, with Hermes regarding digital wearables. Now, are we talking about IRL wearables appearing on physical, like so digital imagery appearing on physical goods, George? Here, let me turn my mic around like that. Is that any better? Much better. Sorry.
Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah. Sorry about that. So, George, are we talking about like digital things appearing on physical goods, or you mean literally your avatar wearing a Hermes watch or something or outfit? That's interesting. This
I think
week's
it's
going to
probably
be big
digital.
for it.
Yeah, I think it's probably digital wearables. No, sorry to cut you off there because I, as we go into the metaverse, whatever that looks like, it's going to be AR, VR, MR. It's going to be some mix of the three. Okay.
Yeah.
The rights around what you wear and who licensed them is going to be crazy. I was sitting with a guy in the airport the other day and he has a fashion line. He has he's an influencer. He has a fashion line. So we put out some clothes and I was talking to him about, NFTs and Phygital and what that would look like. And he was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. Cause I was like, yeah, the thing about digital fashion that from like a business standpoint is that you're not worrying about sourcing the leather over here and then worrying about sourcing the beads over here. And then you have to also think about CSR and making sure you're doing it on the up and up. You just create at one time and then there's marginal to zero, cost to replicate. And so you could sell 5,000 Gucci handbags, which will happen. I think Gucci's already starting to do this, digital handbags, but it maybe cost them such a small amount of price. And it looks like George dropped a dropped a link in here, and he says, yeah, digital purses, etc. Exactly. So we're talking about handbags, trademark rights if they transfer to metaverse, all in the conversation. And I think it's a really interesting one. I did not know that, however, about doodles, that it was only up to 100,000, because I think that's kind of weird, right? You and I buy a doodle, we go in, we create this really cool brand around it, we have our own podcast, we're like, oh, we have this doodle, it's amazing. And then we sell $99,999 worth of merch. What do we
Yeah.
just turn it off so we don't make the next sale? Like, I don't understand how that
How is
works.
it
Who's going to
governed?
come
So,
after you?
yeah,
Yeah, who's the government?
enforcement.
Who are the police?
Enforcement's going to be interesting. Now that might happen in the form of a lawsuit. They might, and remind you too, like in the example that my company is was hear me out, was legitimately considering licensing a doodle as our characterization for kind of the next season of our. It really reflects the target audience we're going after. This think of doodles and think of how this animation is happening right now, and then think of that young 18 to 24-year-old, gaming native who's now getting into small business and thinking, well, we could add these characters not to replace the IRL employees, but these characters participating and kind of interacting in an augmented reality sort of brand feel, where in some of our media or some of our emails going out, you've got these personified kind of doodle looking characters. And then other of the media, like the videos, it's me, so we're looking at creating this fusion brand going forward. And so as we can consider that, I might write a check to this person or wire them or Zelle them, $100,000 to license this for the next 2 years. And I can do what I want with it. So like, am I limited to maybe selling a mug with this on it? Or are they limited from me? And then you're right. How do they track this? How would they even file a lawsuit when the smart contract doesn't even exist yet? Because banking and Swift banking isn't tied into the smart contract system yet. So it is interesting, but I did think there was foresight here in Doodle's case. I do think they are futurists as a company. They've done a real good job of putting a team together, because they came out and said, listen, because of what we're doing with the Doodle brand, Doodles 2 and on will have zero commercial rights. So the fact that Doodles 1, this is, I think, going to drive the price of Doodles 1 up, because think
For
as
sure.
they build this brand that's piggybacking on Rick and Morty and that purchase, and then they're going to start rolling out their own IP with Doodles 2. Have you seen the space doodle generator and all this stuff?
Yeah, I was actually, as you were talking there a little bit, I opened up OpenSea because I wanted to know what the floor. And the floor right now for Doodle is 675 ETH, 6.75 ETH. And ETH's price is, I don't know, 1,500, 1,400, 1,300.
Yeah,
I'm not even 1,600, whatever. So you're
yeah,
looking at around, and once again, this is bad napkin math. You're looking at around $10,000 to get in
yeah,
on a project that I just think it's going to be like owning a Simpson character in 15 years, having
yeah,
like rights or
yeah,
having the power to do that. When they brought in Pharrell, I believe is one of their creative directors or creative
yeah.
advisors, I was
Mhm.
like, they know exactly what they're doing. Pharrell Williams, if you were into music when he's way back in the day with NERD, that's one of my favorite albums of all time. I just think he has a timeless approach to culture. And if you're building for the future, you need that.
Yeah,
So I'm just so bullish on Doodles. It's absolutely insane. It's something I actually hope, Doodles, if you're listening, I would love to do a collaboration with you and Mercy Corps. We're looking to collaborate with NFT communities, and Doodles is a blue chip for me. So that's a
yeah.
no-brainer. I'm going to shout out Tristan's comment here because I've done many podcasts on this on More Than Blockchain. It says metaverse concerts are starting as well, changing the entertainment world. Travis Scott just did one for 18 million. So
Is
normally
this a
in the
more
music
recent
industry,
one?
yeah, it's a more recent one. And I wasn't
Oh,
aware that it was 18 million, but normally in the music industry, and I've had a couple guests on More Than Blockchain that are in the music industry and they could come on and talk about this, but a lot of it comes down to concert sales, merch, streaming sales, YouTube ads. But gone are the days of actually making money from the music, right? They don't actually make money on the music. The music is just like the medium to which they get to other things through merch, through private
yeah,
events. Like, hey, I'm gonna have Drake at my whatever. Here's
yeah,
200,000 to Drake. Drake come through. He does a 30-minute set. Everyone's happy.
yeah,
And if you can picture the future, you don't have to go out on the road anymore. You
Yeah.
could still do that, but you
Yeah.
could make that your higher ticket. Like if I go to MSG, it's going to be $2,000 a ticket because normally I'm just doing all metaverse concerts. So
Yeah.
I was actually thinking, and I guess we'll share it now, but in the future, the IRL is going to be so freaking sacred. It already is kind of now. And I mean, we're the
Yeah.
best
I think
example
they'll, I
because you
think
and
it'll
I,
go to premium. Yeah.
yeah, because you will go premium because you and I've never met. And also, we should have said this at the top of the hour here, but Jay is not with us today. He has
Yeah.
had a very big event at work, and he needs to be all hands on deck. So he
He's
is currently
pumping.
not. Yeah, he's pumping. They're doing some big revenue moves right now, so he's not here. But the three of us have never met. But the IRL, when we're
Mhm.
together, that could be like a big moment. So I do think the IRL will be premium for any content creators, for any
Yeah.
influencers, and I think the future of the world. And once again, I'll write a medium on this probably, but it's like going to be like Comic-Con, where you're
Yeah.
going to go and see people and be like, oh my
Yes.
God, I saw them in real life, even though you see them
Yeah.
every day on Twitch or on
Mhm.
YouTube or whatever. And so I just think it's going to allow creators to be able to leverage their brand literally through the moon and it be something that like we don't
Yeah.
we don't currently see.
A very small parallel to this is right now we have an influx of leads in one of our companies. And I always get these referrals because I built all the relationships. And we're seeing a lot of the old heads say, hey, I got to meet in person. And all the new heads, all of our new clients, the ones that would align with Doodles, they don't even think about it. They literally don't even think about an in-person meet. It's not even like, oh, that's even an option. Like, I mean, and then they think they have they're less they're less awkward on Zoom or virtual than they would be in person. And like they start thinking about, do I even have the clothes to meet with someone? Where are we meeting up? I got to find a car. Like, what are you talking about? But the old heads are like, I can't tell you what to edit on my website without meeting. So I've had several leads, and this is where you're talking about the IRL has a premium. This happened twice in the last 12 hours. I want to make some edits to my website was one. And I said, okay. They said, but we have to meet in person. This is an older client, a client that I've had for a while, right? And I said, we've got to put childcare together for our team, vehicles and schedules, and we don't even work on same schedules with our team. And so they're like, I'm sorry, but like, I don't even know how to think about, literally, I don't even know how to think about my website unless we're together. And it's like, oh, okay, there's something going on. And then right after that, I got a phone call that says, hey, I've got a referral. I said, when are you available? Well, I'm only available after 6 p.m. I said, I only work business hours. They said, you can't make it. You can't make an exception. I said, I can meet you in person, but here's the date. And it was like way in the future. They're like, you don't have anything sooner? I said, I have plenty sooner. I have plenty virtual. I can meet you by Zoom. I can meet you plenty earlier. But if you want to meet in person, and so both of these people I had to schedule out over a week out, and they were flabbergasted. Like,
Hmm.
and we had this conversation that there's a premium on IRL, and it's sacred, and it's almost like the fact that I live in a small town it's almost like I'm protecting that because I go out here and people don't know that we do this. When we've got a big following. Look at the numbers. We've got a great following. You're in Bogota. We could be anywhere, and there is a massive premium on this. Now, a quick thought I had back on the case that George brought up with the Meta Birkin. You mentioned augmented reality and the IP, the intellectual property rights in um, digital in the metaverse itself makes a little bit of sense. But when you start thinking that we are going to be living in a true augmented reality, I could look at you and when graphic cards are good enough, you're wearing a black shirt now, but it could simply, man, you just purchased this awesome Gucci shirt. We can fake backgrounds. Why not fake your shirt real time with a slight delay? So you bought this awesome Gucci shirt, you just want to represent or a piece of jewelry in that augmented reality, and someone takes the time to craft it so it glints right, so that it moves right with your actual movements, it only makes sense that we're going to value this at a premium. You want to go to Tristan's comment real quick?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm glad that we got to this because I think it's really important. And I think you talking about a business owner and saying, "Hey, I can meet up with you, but it's going to take a week," even in like pre-internet, this is where we live days. I really feel like that's pretty generous. I mean, if you're a busy business owner, being booked 2 weeks out, like I don't think it's crazy. And I've also built websites for years, and more recently, I've had a client who only wants to meet up to edit. And I'm telling him, dude, I'm like, dude, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to do that, you know? And
Not for
because
this
I said,
price.
yeah, not for this price. And I also said, here's the thing, like what we're going to do, I could just do it over Zoom. I could record it and then I can send you that. So you have what we talked about, or we're going to go sit next to each other and we're both going to be playing on the same keyboard. I would like you to be able to drive a little bit in this relationship. And so I've had some of the similar things, especially with like editing websites, because people literally want to take their finger and they want to put it on a screen, which is no
Mhm.
different than them putting a mouse on the screen.
That's right.
Um, and so it's a very interesting thing. But yeah, I want to shout out Tristan. And Tristan, I actually just dropped you because I couldn't figure out how to get on the live an episode of More Than Blockchain where I talk about how the metaverse is going to change things. And I've been saying for years that there's just going to be, you know, I watch the NBA and NBA courtside tickets can be like $5,000. So what a
Yeah.
company's going to go do is they're going to go buy 3 seats and they're going to take that and they're going to put a bunch of cameras in it and they're going to buy it for the entire season. And they're
Yep.
going to do this at every single arena. And they're going to put very high def cameras in there, cameras that are going to be able to basically simulate, I guess, the metaverse, where basically you're going to be able to put on goggles
Yeah.
and you're going to be able to look around and see the game as it happens in real time, as though you were sitting there. Now, you're not going to be able to get up and walk and get popcorn. You're not going to be able to go to the bathroom.
Sure.
But imagine the revenue from that.
Mm.
Normally, a company or the arena could only sell those 3 tickets. Say they're $5,000 each. That's 15,000 per game. If someone wants to do the math, multiplying that by 82 games in a season for the NBA, go ahead. But once you do that, you could just sell a subscription for $200 a year to be able to watch any NBA game like that. And
Yeah.
eventually, you're going to break a point where you're just like raking in the cash. So
Yes.
I say that because Tristan says there's a startup that's co-owned between the U.S. and Turkey that's bringing the sports world into it, where you can open a door in your home and be pitch side to the soccer games worldwide for a subscription-based model. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. And I spoke about it. I think it's episode
Oh,
15 of More Than
wow.
Blockchain, where it's just totally that. You're going to be able to put on a headgear, whether it's augmented reality, virtual reality, or some type of mixed reality, and then be able to feel like you're in the stadium. And you'll pay a
Yeah.
subscription for this, but you're going to be able to kind of feel like you're among the fans, you know, like seeing what's going on in the crowd. And as a
Yeah.
sports fan, that's really cool. And I think the same will happen with Broadway. The same will happen with anything right now where people are sitting in a seat, which is absolutely
Yeah.
fascinating. From a revenue perspective, it's just mind-boggling.
And
Looks
think of
like you
the
have a shout
things
out
that
there, Grant.
Yeah, Billy, good morning. Or Billy says, good morning, Billy Weigel. Billy himself is a financial investor. Billy, we're doing Friday finances, hint, hint. We might talk about that later, but check that out on Fridays. And you would be a great participant in that. But Aussie says, definitely interesting. And I'm going to go back to George's comment in a second here. But Ready Player One was a phenomenal book. And it really envisioned, as so many of these science fiction books did, this world. And if you think about opening a door and being courtside or pitch side, but then thinking about, wait, I value that. I value being able to sit courtside at a game. And then you think, they're going to put that same price tag on there. And what if you can only afford nosebleed seats? They can control this with a single dial. And what made me think of this was this new Travis Scott concert. If we all recall, Travis Scott did a concert in Fortnite and it made a killing and broke a lot of ground. And then he just did this new concert. And then that got me thinking about Snoop Dogg, how he makes appearances in Decentraland or Sandbox, wherever he's at, where he has concerts and after concert parties and stuff. But think about it. I just asked myself this question. How do I know that's really Travis Scott? How do I know that's really Snoop Dogg? We already have Tupac Shakur appearing as a hologram, right? And so the question is when you said there's a premium on IRL, think about the new level of pure, and I would agree with, justification for Snoop to say, I'll let you license my Decentraland figure, put a
Mm.
suit on someone else, play my song. We all know that the songs are either choreographed or synchronized or lip synced anyway, or I'll even be in my booth and I'll actually commit to singing for this premium. You just pay a little bit extra. I'll show up on time for that. But I've built a brand, and this is what Snoop knows. I've built a brand. This is what Travis Scott has done. This is what Travis Scott, Snoop, Bored Apes, and now Doodles, they're all in the same business. We have built a brand that you said you valued. It doesn't matter if I'm there or not unless you want to pay a premium, because my time is worth something. And it's worth something to me, and you said you're willing to pay. And so I think that we are going to have a whole new existential crisis here pretty soon. And then I'll get to Billy's comment, but real quick, George did also mention think gaming assets. Now, we knew this from a conceptual standpoint, right? Like, oh, it'd be so cool to have this cool Willy Wonka outfit or this laser cannon, right? But I think this stuff is going to have actual in-game impacts cross gaming. You're okay with
I'm just
that?
giggling. It's like before the show, I gave you a challenge to say laser cannon, and then you somehow worked it into the show. That's how ridiculous that was.
I didn't. I did. He didn't do that, by the way, but we should start that.
We should start doing that. Exactly. When I'm like pumpkin patch. Anyway, so
my favorite was when I used to preach. I had my youth pastor give me the term aluminum siding, and I had to work it into a sermon. Aluminum siding, and I was like, when you're close to the Lord, it's like having aluminum siding repelling the enemy. You're welcome for that.
Oh my gosh. It looks like Billy Weigel's going to take us in a different direction, which I think we should go towards. But before we go there, on More Than Blockchain, I've talked about the metaverse a lot, and I just think it's kind of a fascinating. It's all hypothetical at this point. I mean, like what exists now is like GoldenEye on N64 compared to video games today. It's just all very new and very kind of raw and not as refined as I think a lot of us are used to kind of engaging with and quality on the internet and UI and UX. So one of the things I wanted to say about this, and did it just slip my mind?
That's all right if it did. We could always just talk about Bitcoin.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot. It had to do something with the metaverse. I'll come back to it, and I'll bring it up in opportune time. But why don't you talk about Billy's comment here? Because I think it takes us back to what we wanted to talk about today, which is the market, and is it going to go up or is it going to go down?
Yeah, so Billy Post, if you're listening to this later, Billy Post, talk to me about everyone saying BTC will pump to 25K, then back down. Further, the better. I have $5,000 in Binance ready to go. Please watch Binance closely. If you have not been paying attention, not financial advice, but they have walked a very thin line. CZ has walked a very thin line. Binance US is obviously different than Binance. We hope, fingers crossed, but please find an account you are very confident that your money is safe in. Further, the better. I have $5,000 in Binance ready to go once it's close to 12,000. Now, 12,000 was close to your number, Jarrett. Am I correct?
Yeah, my number was always lowest, which would be like super low with the standard deviations or whatever, was 8,000. And my upper limit for the bullish case was 12,000. So I do still believe, and now we can get right into this, that it will go down to 15, 16, 17. I just think the macro environment's horrible. I think there's so many layoffs. I just think, I mean, the fact that eggs are now like increasing, there's just still so many global supply chain issues. I think that this pump that we're kind of having right now is kind of like a head fake. But you know what? We'll see. We'll see. The key is
Jay is over there. Listen, I'm not going to give away.
Is that really Jay?
I'm not giving away. I hope it is. I'm not going to give away what Jay is up to, other than taking some $5 or $6 million thing to 8 or 10 million right now. He's over there and he has found time to comment 25K is a good bet.
I looked at that because all of a sudden it pops up. It says not crypto bros. I'm like, wait, we're not crypto bros. And Jay's over there squirreling away, listening to us giggling.
Keep going.
Well, now I forgot what I was going to say, but I think, oh man, I want to go back.
He says 25K is a good bet. You were calling for 12K because the price of eggs was going nuts. Are they that coupled? Jay would say they are that coupled. Are you believing that TradFi DeFi is so coupled that if DeFi got into a real strong pump where people were like, yeah, F fiat, and they were just throwing liquidity again, Raoul Paul said very clearly that what drives this market is liquidity and consumer confidence. And in the TradFi, it's like just consumer confidence. Like, will they decouple in runs, or are they coupled for life?
I think right now they're coupled, and I think you could probably show a chart over a week or a month where they're not, but like over the long haul, the S&P, as Bitcoin goes, the S&P, like let's just say this, Bitcoin doesn't really pump without the S&P making positive moves. A lot of the
Mm,
stock market is up 30 to 40% since the beginning of the year. Same with Bitcoin and crypto. It's up pretty good amount since January 1st. So they're still really coupled in my mind. And it all has to do, like Raul said, with liquidity and the fact that right now the cost of capital, it's so much to go ahead and borrow that people aren't doing it. And there's unemployment is on the rise. And I think, and I've said this many times before, but I'll say it again, that I do think the unemployment metrics in the United States specifically are really flawed because it doesn't take into account the people that have just given up on looking for jobs. Um,
yes.
they're not taken into account. And there was an article that came out. Oof, I forget exactly the the publication, but it was basically saying there was an economist, and I believe at MIT or Harvard, and I should not confuse the two, but I am, that
Hmm.
basically said he doesn't know where the 2 million people that should be part of the labor force are, that have kind of
Mm,
left since the pandemic. And so they're not being taken into account, in our unemployment statistics. So I know
mm,
that politicians will say unemployment is low, but if you ask the average person in the United States, they're not exactly thrilled about where their finances are. And I'm using the United States as a case that you and I are the most familiar with, but
yeah.
like the rest of the world is not much better because many of them are on currencies that are dying,
Yeah.
that are being devalued, combined with local inflation at their supermarket. And I had actually posted something in a group chat of buddies of mine this morning that Bloomberg had put out, and it was just a super catchy title. And it said, more Americans making over 100,000 a year say they're living paycheck to paycheck. And it says some 64% of US consumers, equivalent to 166 million people, were living paycheck to paycheck at the end of 2022. That's an increase of 3 percentage points from a year earlier, or
Wow.
9.3 million, or 9.3 million Americans. And out of that group, some 8 million were people earning more than $100,000 a year. Now,
Wow.
I just wanted to
Wow.
share that because I think that sometimes if you watch the news or you read anything and you're looking at the markets, I don't think that the markets are taking into account what's happening on Main Street. Maybe not what's
Yeah.
happening on Wall Street and for the wealthy
Hmm.
and the rich and those who can invest, but I
Yes.
think Main Street is really, really hurting. And the simple anecdote I threw out was like eggs. Eggs are expensive, therefore Bitcoin's going to go down. It's kind of a ridiculous thing. It may not be causality, but there's a correlation there that in order for like crypto to really go up, here we go, crypto to really go up, it's either going to be institutions, as I think George
Yeah.
is calling out,
Yeah.
or it's going to be retail, and retail is not going to do it right now. So George says banks worldwide are moving to crypto. My mom always used to say, "What does that have to do with the price of eggs in China?" Well, mom, a lot. And we live in a super globalized world where
Yeah.
the butterfly flaps its wings, and it will create hurricanes on the other side of the world. So there's my diatribe
I
done.
think, something that's bothering me of late is to continue with the theme of eggs for everyone, chicken or the egg on this idea. Is life really that hard on Main Street in America? Or are people trying to live up to the social media dream? There is a strange sociological, and I wish we could have the guys that wrote Freakonomics on the show to really school me on some of these analytics. But if you see these interviews on social media of people who are trying to find a high value man, I put that in air quotes for those listening later, or a high value woman, and you ask them, hey, what does a 30-year-old male or what does a 30-year-old high value woman make? What partner are you looking for? How much do they earn a year? And they will throw out ridiculous numbers. Like you'll get everything from $300,000 a year to $1 million a year. And there is a powerful Census Bureau app that I meant to bring on the show. Maybe we'll do it for Friday Finances, or maybe we'll just do a one-off with this. There's an app that the Census Bureau put how likely you are to meet your dream mate based on the Census Bureau, and in the United States for our international viewers. And the Census Bureau puts in all of its statistics, and it will say how tall is the person, what's the person's gender, what do they do for a living, and how much do they earn. And someone put in, I want to find a 6'1" male who's not obese, who has a full-time employment or is self-employed and earns over $250,000 a year. And if you look at the numbers, it's less than 1% of the population. You have a 1% chance of ever meeting this mate. Go ahead.
Sorry. Say that. Can you say the criteria again to build up to that?
In the one example I saw, it was
in this one example.
It's a 6'1" male. I think they were in their 30s, making $250,000 a year, not obese, which is a major factor in the United States, right? Not obese and not already married, right? Or not already with somebody else. It was less than 1% for that person.
We don't have enough time today to go
No.
through my own therapy on this, but
Okay.
I will never understand. Well, I will
Yeah.
understand like psychologically, evolutionarily, maybe why
Yeah.
you'd want a bigger partner from like some fear thing.
Oh,
But
tall,
like
like height and
the
stuff. Yeah.
amount of people
Yeah.
that are so specific about the height of their
Yes.
partner is
Yes.
so weird to me. It's
Yeah.
just so strange to me.
It's
And
as
I'll
weird
never
as some of these
understand it.
financial. Like, why do you think 250? Well, I can't. I'm living paycheck to paycheck at 100. Show me your invoices and bills. Show me the leases you have. Now, maybe, granted, I'm a single mother home. I've got 2 kids. I get it. But is that we hand these anecdotes around so much? Is that an accurate measure of anything? And my point is this: when we talk about recession and we talk about people barely getting by, and we talk about inflation, I wonder how much of some of the average person's estimate that the government needs to do something, or I'm not earning enough, or I got to go find a better job. I was making 120 at Spotify. I'm not going to get by if I don't make 180 at Google. And it's like, oh my gosh, how are you existing? What are you living? Well, I'm living in San Francisco and in a well, okay, time out. Like, why? Why? Like, do you need to be making more, or do you need to be consuming less? And I know that this is about crypto. We need to be talking about crypto so we can circle back. But I am convicted that these numbers are not. We cannot take these numbers at face value, I guess is what I'm saying. We need to dive
Yeah.
deeper. We could always circle back
I
on that later.
Yeah, well, why don't we touch that as we're getting
Yeah, yeah,
close to the end of the show? And
yeah.
I actually remembered what I was going to say, and we actually have a couple
Please.
amazing comments here,
Yeah,
and
we'll
we'll
get
get
to 'em.
that back to those comments when we come back. One of the things that I was going to say
Yeah.
was that I actually probably need to change the light because now I feel like I look like an Oompa Loompa with this weird blue I have here. But I remember what I was going to say, and it was about Snoop Dogg and his
Okay.
brand and Doodles and Travis Scott and Bored Ape
Mhm.
Yacht Clubs. We were talking about the power of brands, and I think that's really, really salient in Web3.
Yeah.
And you were like, how do I even know if it's Snoop? Because maybe Snoop sold the rights to use him on Tuesdays and Thursdays on some talk radio.
Yeah.
And I was watching Elon talk about how I think it's speech AI or talk AI, or the
Yes.
AI is getting so good for voice.
Audio.ai.
Audio.ai. Thank you so much for correcting me. Audio.ai.
I
And
saw this.
I'm going to be launching a More Than Blockchain episode coming up with a buddy of mine. And he talks about, you'll have to listen to the episodes, you can hear more. He's into AI. He's built his own AI products. It is the space that like 4 or 5 years ago, he said, this is all I want to do is focus on this. And he's like totally shifting into that professionally, which is really fun. Oh, voice AI. And he said, listen to this, Grant. This is crazy. Anyone else listening? I want to know if you've heard someone else say that they have this already set up. He's the first person I've heard saying that they have this set up, which blew my mind. He and his wife, and I went to their wedding, and here's like a TMI from that wedding. I don't even know if he wants this shared, but at his wedding, he created an AI. It's like vows.ai or something. So in front of everyone, his partner Lindsay read out her vows, right?
Oh my God.
And then he said, I love you. I want to do this the right way. So in front of everyone, he put what he wanted his vows to be into the AI product he had created, and then read out what the AI said for a vow. Okay.
Okay.
So this guy, he's amazing. He's wonderful. He's going to be coming on. He'll be on More Than Blockchain soon. Make sure you follow along for that. He said he and his wife, and once again, if you have heard this, please hop in the comments, or if you're hearing this after, find me. He and his wife, they have devised a code among them. So that way, if his name's Andy, if he were to ever call his wife and say, hey, I need $10,000, I need you to wire it to me and I'm in a jam, she would say, okay, I can do that. Or, what's my social? I can tell you anything that would be fishy. They have a code because he's so highly aware of how fine-tuned AI is going to be. And I started
Yeah.
to think, and on the podcast, I say this, I started to have like a
Interesting.
wow, come to Satoshi moment here,
Yeah.
where I basically said, I know you like that one, where
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
basically said, I guess I'm in trouble. And Grant, so are you, and so is Jay Harris. Our voice, there are hours of our voice on the internet
Hours.
that an
Yeah.
AI could suck up and just be me, you
And
know?
do you know where this exists that we use in a commercial way? You and I already use this
In what?
in Descript. So Descript, for those watching,
Descript, yeah.
Descript is the video editor we use. It is a Y Combinator graduate. It is a video editor that Jarrett and I use, and Jay, when we post our episodes. But what happens is it reads for our transcription all of our voice. It takes all of our audio files, and I label who says what and why. And it has a huge big data database. That way, we could either overdub if there's a mess up, or I can type the word and it will take our samples from hundreds of episodes and synthesize it unnoticeably. It's insane.
It's
And the
surreal.
mark, it is surreal. And the idea then of someone like Snoop being able to license themselves and synthesize themselves, not only is it not there to fool us, I don't think it's there to fool us, not in that commercial sense, and in other ways maybe. But in a commercial sense, it will just accept the fact that, yeah, Snoop's a busy guy. Why wouldn't he license? If he can license his image for a cartoon on the Cartoon Network and they put Snoop in a cartoon on the Cartoon Network, would we care any less or any more if it was a concert in decentralized sandbox? Go ahead. We got some great comments. Go.
Yeah, we got some great comments. I'm not sure if you would, because I know people today that will pay large amounts of money to hear like Eagles cover band,
Yeah.
Beatles cover band. And it's really no different. I'm just actually listening to that music in real time. You know, like if I really like an artist. So anyways,
I don't think we'll care.
I don't think we're here. And that's what I wanted to say, but I had forgot about the metaverse, about the brand, about using AI. I think NFTs all get sucked into here as communities become tokenized and kind of blockchain. So we have a bunch of comments here, and I really want to
real quick.
Steve-O Crypto says, I was worried about these robocalls. And then do you want to talk about the
let's back up real quick. George Pate says, if you're having trouble getting eggs, just get them chickens and heat them with your miner. I absolutely believe this. Jay was asking, as not Crypto Bros before, are $100,000 earners living paycheck to paycheck because of debt? And this is kind of what I was getting at. Maybe we could unpack this a little bit more. Maybe we should all look at the Census Bureau, because this was U.S. data. We do need to look at other countries, but our anecdotes were being pulled from U.S. Census. And maybe it was debt. Maybe they were claiming they had to live with debt to get by because of the price of inflation. But I present for most people's consideration, based on George's next comment, that living in places like LA, New York, San Francisco eat up more than 40% of income. Big salaries in metro area kills any fancy living. I agree with this, and I need to be more empathetic. I have always chosen to live in medium-sized to small cities for this reason. We live in Central Florida right now because it is the most stable from an inflationary standpoint place in the country that we have found yet to live, where we have a good standard of living. Not exactly our politics. No, we don't get mountains. Yes, we get surf, but so we're missing out on, and we're missing out on some things, and there's a value exchange here. But I would never choose to live here. So I say move somewhere else, but I need more empathy, because a lot of these people that were born in these places say, I'm talking about my family, my best friends that I had since high school, the place where I know to do coffee. Grant, why don't you just pick up and leave? Well, because I'm a local here and I love my coffee shop where I literally know everyone, from the mayor who sits to buy and coffee, literally, to the real estate investor I meet. And I always check, hey, what's going on with real estate? And I mean, I'm a local and so are they. And so we can't just say, hey, ditch it. So that probably is a lot of what that has to do with that. Jay says, I'm a 4 out of 5. Maybe it's the criteria where he's a 1% man.
Is that Jay, or who is that? I can't see who
that was.
Is.
Jay commenting as us before he went and got his handle. Monica, yes, if you have a show horse.
This was in
This was in
this was in
response to
relation
this.
to exactly how
And
are people making 100K plus, not okay.
how are they getting by? Monica is a equestrian. She is always on her horse. I know her personally, and yes, it's a very expensive way to live. And then let's come down to this comment here. Do you remember the Kevin Hart joke about the code he had with his friend where they would warn each other if their significant other was around? I remember the joke, but I don't remember the actual words they used. And then Steve-O Crypto, I feel like they're collecting my voice. I had 2 calls yesterday and 2 texts actually. Hey man, I sorry I left my dress there. This is Grant. I think you have the wrong number. And then it dawned on me. This is social engineering. They just threw out a text. Oh, this must be the wrong number. Sorry. I am not even going to respond to wrong numbers or phone calls anymore because of this
Nope.
very reason.
I with all the phishing scams that are out there right now,
Mm-hmm.
I literally get texts all the time.
Yeah.
I get texts all the time. I don't have Amazon Prime. Very open about that. And I'll get a text probably once a month that says, "We missed you. We'd love to swing back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Here's your delivery ID number.
Yeah.
We know it's electronic, so we can't leave it on the stoop, or
Yeah.
on your front door. Let us know when's a good time." And then it says, "Click here to sign a link."
Yeah.
Delete those texts. Do not click anything.
That's right.
I get probably 5 to 10 emails a day that don't even go to my spam, that are just from like Best Buy that said, you want a fridge, click here. And you look at the email and it's like 70, it looks like a Bitcoin, it looks like a crypto address at Gmail. And obviously there's problems with it, but yeah, it's really quite crazy.
And Steve-O says exactly. And I got to tell you this. So the website company we have hundreds of clients. We've got 245 websites that we're starting, and it's all like local small business and expanding. All these are small business owners who have purchased domains, say for example, at GoDaddy. They don't get the domain privacy. So their email, if you just look up it's called a who is search. It's easy to look up who owns more than blockchain. If you didn't pay for the privacy, it's called ICANN, which is a Patriot Act thing in America, where so that if you ever, shill some sort of Iranian money or some, enemy of the state money, they have to know who you are. And they are required by law because they require the information. Your information is therefore public domain because it's public domain because it's the government. And then suddenly your information's out there unless you explicitly purchase privacy. So they get bombarded, all of them get bombarded with these emails, these phishing emails. And that email might do exactly what you're saying. This is an American Express. Your bill is past due. We're going to cancel your account. Click here to update your information. Oh my God, of course, it's super convenient. I'll click the big blue button. Never. Actually, in the from or sent information, hit the little drop-down menu in whatever your email server is and look and see, is this the case? And still, even if you think you're sure, browse directly to American Express in this example, or browse directly to that client. Don't click anything in emails unless you absolutely know who it's coming from.
Absolutely. We should probably say this every single episode, just so if you come across us, that we're like, cyber privacy is huge.
Kevin
I
Rose
constantly have my VPNs on all the time.
I mean,
who's
like
this?
We talk, Kevin Rose is the founder of dig.com. He launched an NFT collection you might know of, Proof XYZ, who own Moonbirds.
Okay, yep, exactly.
And he just got phished for all of his stuff.
Oh yes, I saw this. Yep.
And he's a technologist, people. So what is phishing? Well, phishing is different than a hack, folks. In fact, I dare say 98% of all NFT hacks and NFT scams where people's accounts get drained are phishing scams, meaning it was non-technical in nature, meaning they sent you an email or sent you a text or convinced you that you were doing a sale and got you to tell MetaMask to give them access. This is not a hack. This is not a hack. A hack is like a coding deal where they trick you that way and actually code into your thing. They actually psyched you out. Psych! And got you. And if they can get Kevin Rose, who invented dig.com, has millions built into his account, and just click the wrong link, it can happen to you too. And you're right. Every time we get on the show, don't get phished. Don't click links and emails you're not familiar with ever, 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 ever.
Yeah,
ever.
And if you get an email from Not Crypto Bros, it was not us. we don't do emails, right? You might get a weird WhatsApp. You're not going to get like a click here now and get your subscription at our crypto bros.
Like the one I see is it's a Google form and we sent you 0.1 BTC. You got to click here to claim it or you're going to lose it. And it's like some non-technical person's like, I better click, it's like,
Yeah. Because those Google forms are where they ask you to put your seeds in.
That's right.
They're just like, yeah, just send us over your seed and then we'll
That's
send
right.
you 2 Bitcoin or whatever. And it's just like, ugh.
Before we go any further about protecting your bottom line, did we answer 25K to 15K? What's it going to hit first? I want to make sure we fulfill our promise. And actually, let's back up. Someone mentioned Zen to Cash, and I think it was George Pate. George Pate mentioned ZTC. I looked it up, George. I'm looking this up. It is at an all-time low, my friend. It popped a little bit, but I'm wondering what it is. Is it a gaming project? It looks like it might be a gaming project or an in-game currency. He says ZTC, check it out. It's gonna moon, not financial advice. But do you think it's going to hit 15 first or 25K first?
Oh, I think this is a super good question. I mean, it's so close to 25K. I could see it going to 25K first. I guess I'm still thinking it's going to go lower, but I don't know. Like that's an assumption based on past historical data, and that past historical data didn't take into account BlackRock, didn't take into account Bank of America, Chase, Fidelity, didn't take into account probably a Bitcoin ETF in the next 16 months, didn't take into account the fact that I think the experiment in El Salvador is going better than I think people give it credit for.
Interesting.
And so there could be another nation that hops in. I'm not really sure. I think if I put money, it goes to 25, but I do think that Bitcoin will go down again. And as it goes down, people who have, FOMO'd into this may sell, but we'll see. What are your thoughts?
I think just statistical probabilities. This is not based on news. This is based on probabilities and momentum. I believe we will touch 25 before we hit 15 or 12. But hear me on this. I still believe we will do both. I still believe we will hit 15. I still believe we will hit 25. I believe we will temporarily hit something in the range. I'm going to say within 15 to 20%. No, within 10% of 25. No, we're already there. We're already within 10%.
We're already there. It's right there.
Yeah, I think we will brush that before we hit 15, but I do think we'll hit 15. Now, Billy, if you're still watching out there, over what time frame? Bro, I have no idea. If you're sitting on 5K in USDC and you're waiting for it to hit 12, man, I believe you are playing a fish in a barrel game. I'm not fish in a barrel. I think you're playing a probabilities game that's working against you. Personally, just me taking what I do. If I had 5K, I would drop 25K. Like if this was new money, and I know in Billy's case this isn't. Billy is a very well-to-do investor, and this is just play money for him. Okay, but to the average Joe who might have shown up with $1,000 or $5,000, who's living paycheck to paycheck, earning 100K a year, you show up
250, but earning,
yeah, 250, but like living on EBT. I get it. I mean, it's tough out there. So if you showed up with 1,000, 5,000, my technique. And Jarrett's technique is different, but my technique in the spirit of transparency, 50% of it goes down immediately, no matter where it's at in the market, because I'm not trying to call it. I'm trying to get in, because time in market to me is easier than timing the market. So I put 50% in right away, and then I start to dollar cost average, and I'll put like a solid $100 a month or every 2 weeks in to try to catch the movement. Once I understand the movement, I'll augment the amounts. And then once I start dipping below my dollar cost average at that point, I'll start increasing the amounts from 100 to 110 to 120 to 150 as I start going down to the point where I am doubling down. And now I have a decent dollar cost average that's near my number. That's how I approach it. Jarrett, for the sake of transparency, how do you approach currently your investing?
Yeah, so I actually started weekly DCA into Bitcoin starting this past Monday. Yep. And I'll tell you, I'll probably actually share that hard number if you join us on Friday for our Friday finances, but that's weekly. And Monday, at least historically, has been the time Bitcoin has always been the lowest. I saw that. I think BitBoy Crypto talked about that. And there's another guy who talked about that. And it's like, there's some historic data there. So I like Mondays. And I'm still holding some on the sideline, though, getting ready for that 15 moment. But I have started to totally DCA just into Bitcoin weekly,
Interesting.
which is exciting. But I am
It's
going
a
to
good
hold some on the side
focus.
because, I don't think it's a bad thing to hold cash in a down market. Like that's sound, sound financial advice if you're going to take it, even though that's not financial advice. I guess we have to say that at some point. It's just going to be like
We should
whatever.
just
But
wear it on the shirt.
yeah, we should just have I should have like a tattoo that just says, not financial advice. But I think you're totally right. I think it will hit 25 and then I think it will go down. I'm not sure who said this. I'm not even sure it was Jay, but it says the Fed is meeting today, 25K or 15K, depends on that. So I think the Fed will probably meet today and they'll decide that they only want 0.25 or 0.5 basis points, whatever. It's not going to be 0.75 basis points, or they're going to be saying that they're seeing inflation kind of come down. I actually don't think that that's true on Main Street if you look at freaking prices. But neither here nor there. I think that they'll say it will go down. I think it will crack 25, but I do think before taxes, as I've always said, before taxes, people have to sell. I think before April 15th in the United States, between March and April 15th, I think that's when you're going to see the bottom. I've said it was going to be somewhere between January 1st and like the end of June. And so that's kind of like a place where I think you'd see the 15. But if it does hit 15, it may yo-yo back up to 20 within a week.
Yeah.
As people buy in with their buys already put in. So
I think
it's really tough to say.
I think if you see a quarter percentage, you're going to see a healthy bump, but I still think it will only be a bump. If you see a 0.5%, I think you're going to see it dump. It's going to be leveraged.
Exactly. That's if you're looking at this, for. I think you are spot on. If it's a quarter that they're going to increase, then you're going to see a pump. Definitely crack 25. If it only hits a 0.5 percentage point, then it's going to dump probably to 19 in the next 2 weeks. If not quicker, and then hover back around 18, 19, where I think maybe it probably should be. I do think in the third and fourth quarter of this year, you're going to see it get up. And by the end of the year, it will probably finish somewhere around 25, 30 comfortably. That's where like the new will be. But right now, if you look at the trend line, anywhere between 18 to 20 is probably where the market's going to go. So
I want to share a quick anecdote, if I may. In the spirit of the NFTs we were talking about and crypto entering the mainstream. We have an intern in one of our companies, and she started with us very, I say intern, I think she's sub 20. I don't think she's 19, maybe 20. And I won't give her whole story away for privacy of her own, but some of the sociological factors are important as we talk about crypto and as we talk about economics. I do believe she lives at home. She is in a sophomore or junior out of college, and she is in the communications department. So she's very interested in comms. She came to us for a variety of reasons, but she has ended up doing a comparison and contrast to our existing brand. And I tasked her with reviewing the Doodles brand. And she's doing a comparison and contrast between, and this is in the spirit of building in the open. I've already said we're trying to rebrand a lot of what we're doing. I've talked about in the earlier part of the episode that we're looking at licensing a Doodle, if not creating our own NFT, just for branding purposes.
Sure.
And then letting people own a part of that brand right out of the gate, and knowing that it's about branding around our company. So she did a comparison and contrast. And we did her review today. How did this homework go? She said, I had ChatGPT up, sidebar. She did not have Google up. She said, I had ChatGPT up and I started having to learn. She said, I'd never heard of an NFT. She said, I dove into the company and I realized, wow, these NFTs are interesting. And I said, why were they interesting? And if you've watched the show for 2 minutes ever, we all who watch this show know why this is interesting. And she said, I thought this was just like, I don't know, World of Warcraft or Dungeons and Dragons. Basically, it falls into the category of some frumpy male who's living at home with his mother and is not doing anything but trading these goofy trading cards. And she said, I was shocked to realize there was something other than just the art. There was more to it than just the art. And Jay says ChatGPT is the new search engine. And yes, in fact, Jay, I think you and the three of us were on a show and we said this will be true. And Google just announced that they see them phasing Google's search out in less than 2 years because of ChatGPT and technologies like them. That came out recently as mega.
Wow. Can you imagine that though?
Big time. So this gal says, hey, I just realized what NFTs are. This could be really good for things like, I don't know what you call it, like provenance of artwork. I said, yeah, we're calling it attribution. And Web3, we call it, the technology at large is attribution. And here's the problems you have with even like buying an Andy Warhol painting. And even if you have the papers, now you have to prove that those papers are legit. We talked about all that. She said this. She said, I realized Pharrell was hired into the company. I asked my cohort at school if they had ever heard of doodles. No. I asked them if they had ever heard of NFTs, and some of them were like, yeah, that's that goofy stuff. I then said, yeah, Pharrell is one of the creative advisors and creative directors. They all said, oh, we heard about that. NFTs are entering through the back door of mainstream media. And it's happening. And we're the old heads, right? They're calling us boomers, but they have no idea about some of this cutting edge tech. So when we say we're early, and I've pushed back, we might still be early, but it is trickling in the back door to some of these companies. And now she has onboarded conceptually a bunch of her peers through this goofy project of looking at this. So I'm getting excited about NFTs and she said this, and this was the big thing. She said, I think a brand that's looking at something like chat or like doodles, I think what non Web3, she didn't have that language. She said brands that are normal businesses, they need to learn from companies like Doodles about building community. And I said, that is intuitive. That you catch that. Go ahead.
Yeah. If you look at this job title I'm about to say, it only started to exist in 2021. Do you know the job title? And you just led into it. It's a very like
community manager.
Community manager. What the hell? You know what that used to be? That used to be PR, that used to be marketing, that used to be branding, that used to be events. It used to be all of these things because years ago, not even years ago, I was looking at a community manager position for all South America for Algorand. And I
remember this.
I got to the final, and then this was in May or June of 2022, and I thought I was made in the shade. It was out of Bogota. It's going to be a good fit. Everything was going well, and then the market took a dump. And between basically May and June, I was a finalist for Algorand and also Polygon to do community manager-ish things, but really build from the ground up. I was given a budget and just said, go out into these huge cities, make noise.
Yes.
And these things, like this idea of seeing your customers as community, this is a whole new idea. And this is where I think people are really, it's not like a whole new idea, but I mean, the idea of treating them like giving them a community manager, like having a space that's 24 hours a day where they can talk to other customers, aka Discord. Show me where that exists 10 years ago. It doesn't.
10 years ago. We did it. We started it 6 years ago. And she laughed when I showed her this. To your point, there's Web 2 vestiges of this. And by vestiges, I mean, they didn't do it well and it's archaic. But those who did it are bringing us into the Web3 world. We have a Facebook group for all of our Spark sites owners, and they can talk to one another. They can ask each other troubleshooting questions about marketing or their website. We posted for the longest time courses into that Facebook group every month for years. And we didn't realize it, but we were scratching at it. They've got to feel like they're a part of the family. But Web3 came along and codified this in such a more dynamic and value-driven way that we didn't even have language for it back then. We just thought we were doing the edgiest thing ever. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I've been a part of groups for years that, you know, if you buy a course from someone and they'll say, oh, you get into our Facebook groups, you can talk to other people. And George just says, and I want to read his comment out here. It says, I come from the music industry. Community building and management has been happening for decades. Okay. It's the artist's fan base. It used to be newsletters and mailings. Now it's Discord. The thing with newsletters and mailings is you're talking to someone. You're talking at someone, not to someone. And, you know, 20 or 30, even 10 years ago, there weren't, like, as far as I know, an email list for all Metallica fans where all Metallica fans could be heard. It was like, Metallica's doing this, and thanks so much. We thank you. It wasn't like, we thank you. And also, what are you saying right now in real time so we can like optimize in real time and move? This is where I think Web3 and NFTs and crypto and DeFi gets really difficult for people to wrap their head around, because they actually have to be flexible in real time. And everyone talks about being agile and flexible and innovative, but like when the rubber hits the road, you're going to find out who.
Well, and so, and this is where, you know, when you're in these things and they're so shiny and so clean, like Discord was for a while, right? And that technology is so clear. And the
Mhm.
community building, especially as it bleeds into Twitter and different places, it makes so much sense that this has never existed before. But to George's point, like, well, there was hints that this is what people wanted. And to your
Mhm.
point, like, do you remember GeoCities? This is what bulletin boards and fan boards were.
Sure.
And this is
Sure.
what MySpace fan pages, there were the fans trying to connect with the fan base. And so the craving, well, I'll put it this way, the demand for this level of community building has actually been screaming into the void for some time. But all we had was newsletters, mailings. All we had was the VMAs or an MTV Unplugged. We're trying to give the fans what they need through this thing called the TV box, the idiot box. But now we've got things like Discord, which it's already chaos on fire. We need an even better upgrade. But George is right. The demand and the craving for these, I think, have been evidenced for many decades. That's why we have religions in a lot of ways, But I'm grateful now, and in thinking back about my intern, I'm grateful that for all the successes and failures in such a short period of time that crypto and Web3 has built in the open. Things like roadmaps, they will find their ways into non-crypto companies, roadmaps, where we're headed,
Oh
where
yeah.
we're headed as a landscaping company, where we're headed as a website company. And then I think community building will be the new mantra of modern, of new media marketing. Not even like social media marketing, not even like digital media. I mean, new media. And that's the amorphous blank canvas of augmented reality. I showed her Decentraland. She goes, this doesn't have a use, does it? I was like, well, Snoop Dogg does concerts here. She was like, what? The eyes are opening that there are worlds within worlds. And this new media of like the only thing that glues us together is every 0 and 1 that connects us as a community. Even the show, Jay jumped on the show. He's over here making millions for a company, and he's involved in the show today because there's some tangible and intangible belonging that I think
Yeah.
happens of where are we going? Not the crypto bros, not crypto bros, but like everyone in the chat, where are they going? And how can I be in their life and build a relationship with them?
Yeah.
Anyways, I think that this has gone a good way. What were we going to say?
No, I was going to say that I just think communities have been around on the internet forever. And this is just now there's a different way for people to kind of rally around that value and exchange in certain spaces in real time.
Yeah.
And it's just different. It's just different.
Yeah.
And everyone can see it and it's exciting. Before we do shout outs, I want to just take a super quick second to say that Grant and I, in our personal journeys for financial freedom and also just trying to like figure out the money game, have started a sideshow, which is, Steve-O Crypto says this channel is a gem / he wrote Jim. I'm hoping it's a gem.
Unless he's sharing his favorite workout program where he trades crypto while curling for girls.
Exactly.
Curls for
He's
girls.
He's on the treadmill, and every time he hits a mile, he buys Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So Grant and I've started up a little side project. It's going to be on Fridays. It's in the morning. It's at 7 a.m. Eastern, which is kind of early if you're on the West Coast in the United States. We will put all the videos and they're going to be up on YouTube, but we talk about finances in a little bit more depth. Grant and I often talk about investments here on Not Crypto Bros, but Not Crypto Bros is really about investments. And it's also about
community.
The culture.
Yeah.
Community and the culture of Web3.
Yeah,
we have a new show called Friday Finances TV, and I just wanted to give a shout out to that before we kind of transition here and invite people. So if you want more information, you can find it on either of our LinkedIn's, or you can DM us, or just go to YouTube and find our YouTube profiles. Grant's is Grant Sparks, mine's Jarrett Carpenter. It's all there, and we will be. Friday is our second episode. So I just wanted to invite people to that. That's where we're really going to dive in more to the investment, the money management, the financial literacy of the lives that we're both living and how we're doing it and how we're trying to, stay relevant in a world of extreme inflation. Right.
And I want to contextualize this a little bit too. This show is sacred to us for crypto, because crypto has a special place in all three of our lives. Jay, myself, Jarrett, we all have very fun, unique journeys that we're proud of. But we wanted to also touch on real estate. And Jay once talked about flipping Lambos. And we want to make sure that though a lot is about crypto, at our heart, crypto for me and Jarrett and Jay too, there's also freedom that we're looking for and financial freedom. And so we wanted to make sure that we kept this sacred for what it is, and then that's sacred for what it is, and and bringing the transparency that I never got as a young investor. I started investing at 21. I found crypto when I was 31. And we've just been investing in everything since. And I just want radical transparency. So we're trying to bring that there, but just keep in mind that crypto will be absolutely sacred here at Not Crypto Bros. Give us some quick shout outs. What do you got?
My shout out is to everyone here in the comments. I thought we went in 1,000 different places today. We talked about the metaverse. We talked about AI. We talked about brand, and we talked about crypto. We talked about crypto prices. We talked about TradFi. Shout out to everyone who's stuck with us, added amazing value, because we're kind of like performers here, and we really do feed off of the energy of the comments.
Yeah,
and
good vibes.
Also, my big shout out is to Jay. He says, "Great show, boys." So my big shout out is to Jay, who's still, I don't know, he's probably in the cubicle or somewhere over in the office, or maybe he's at home, but he's just like chatting away, listening to us. So shout out to Jay Harris. Jay, we'll see you next week. Grant, what are your shout outs?
I was going to shout out Jay as well for being here in spirit while he's helping make a great brand out there, great money. Shout out to Steve-O Crypto and our YouTube viewers. We love our YouTube viewers big time. Shout out to George. George is a wealth of information. And George, I want to know you more personally and hear more about your journey. You sound like you have a lot going on. I think we've even talked before, but I really thank you for your involvement. Of course, George Pate's always got some zingers. Zentcash, tell us more about that. But what am I getting at? What are we talking about? Community. I'm telling you, if I have to nerd out about NFTs and cryptos and even shit coins to be around this awesome vibe of a community, I'll totally do that. Like that's like for life. So that's what I got today. Jarrett, where can people find us?
Oh, God. Find us on YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Not Crypto Bros. And we will see you back here at Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern next week. Thanks so much for showing up.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.